decide, let you know.
Okay, let's start the Board of Commissioners meeting of October 24th. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the agenda review.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
And there's no changes?
No changes.
Okay, so we usually don't do that right away. Okay. All those in favor of the agenda as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Okay, I guess we can do some commissioners' reports. I hope they're short and brief. Let's start with you, Vance.
I get to start this morning.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our last board meeting was on October 10th. And directly after our board meeting, I had a Children's Museum board meeting. So I went to that.
Nice.
On October 11th, I had a TDS Personnel Committee meeting. I then went to a program for the Diversity Board, which is responding to racist speech and behavior, which is over at the Lincoln Community Center over in your area there, Drew.
Yep.
And then that evening we had a open house for the Hafner Drive, Madison Avenue intersection over in Eagle Lake. And I think quite a few of us showed up for that one. October 12th, we had a community farm meeting. Myself, Will, our new community farm manager, who is Anna Good, and we spoke about what's going on this year, what's going on in the coming year, next year, because we have to move because of the County Road 1 improvements there that are going to take up basically where our community farm is at. And had a lot of good discussion. I really think we're blessed to have Anna Good, who we just hired this last year when Ryan moved. She's just a great benefit to us. That evening I had my Highway 169 Corridor Coalition meeting. And on October 17th, we had our county board work session and tour. We got to go around the whole county and tour different areas. And that was really good. Good for us to see, the different areas around the county that are in need of work and what we're doing to address the work. October 19th, we had an intergovernmental meeting. Myself, Kip, and Bob and Ryan, and then the city of Mankato talked about Hafner Drive and Madison Avenue. We have plans today to do a speed study on our area. It's interesting when I look at that intersection. The only one that's done anything to improve safety is the county. There's nobody else. We have put stripes on the road to reduce speed. We have taken off the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, and so there's 35-mile-an-hour warning signs there, trying to reduce speed. I didn't see anybody else. No other government agency that's done anything at that intersection to try to do anything to increase safety. We've requested to have stripes put in on Hafner Drive, so there's a right turn lane and and that hasn't been done. And there was more accidents this weekend. Just a matter of time before somebody gets killed, and I'm hoping that we can make that intersection safe before that happens.
We're hoping that the speed will come back quite a bit lower.
Well, the speed, we done everything we can to try to reduce the speed there. But it's a 4-lane, divided 4-lane, and people are going to go travel the speed they're comfortable with.
We can talk about this, a little later.
Right.
Okay. Sure.
Then I had a TDS board meeting that evening. On October 23rd, I did a small video for the Children's Museum. I got to go down there and do one. It was for our benefactors. I went to the city council meeting last night. And then this morning I had my airport commission. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Vance. Will, let's go mix it up.
Okay, had the, after the board meeting on the 10th, had the Tri-County Transit meeting, and that's moving along well. The buses have been ordered, and we looked at possible routes, and so very pleased with the way that that's doing. And of course, the Hafner Open House in Eagle Lake. On the 11th, Vance covered the community farm meeting pretty good. On the 13th, I had the AMC board meeting in St. Paul. Not a lot to report there. Planning for the December conference and some other committee reports. And then on the 17th, we had the work session and the road tour, and that's already been covered pretty well too. So that's my report.
Thank you, Will. Kip?
After our last board meeting, Mark and I were up at the MICA meeting. They're getting geared up for the session already. They got quite a few programs going on. Looks like it's going to be an interesting session again this year. We heard from all of the lobbyists that we have working with us, and we got rid of all of them. Got a new secretary a couple months ago, and she seems to be doing really well. Got our old meeting room back, and MICA's back up and running again.
Very cool.
Then we got back from that just in time to get the Hafner Drive open house in Eagle Lake. As Vance already mentioned, I thought it was a good turnout. I was kind of hoping we'd get a little more feedback from residents of Eagle Lake that use that road. That was our intention for doing one in Eagle Lake. I think it was a good plan, but people are just okay with the decisions we're making at this point, I guess. But it's all right. We had a good turnout. We had good discussion with the people that were there, and it created some buzz around town. I've been visiting with other people as I get out and about in the community. Mark and I were at an RCEF meeting. I got a couple things going on there with some possibly trying to host it through someone else, so we might be bringing that back to the board for some discussion because we do fund that with some community support dollars. Mayors and clerks meeting was a nice turnout. Got to hear from the bus people. Got really well educated on the Mankato transit system, so that was nice to know. Then MVAC meeting, we had our executive meeting for MVAC. Things are going well there, nothing really new to add. The day of the work session and the road tour, I made both of those, but then in the middle of that I stopped over to the MRCI thrift store, has a luncheon for all the volunteers. And I usually like to try to get to that whole entire lunch, but I did get over there for about a half hour, 40 minutes, got to visit with some people and tell them how much we appreciate their volunteering for the MRCI thrift store. And yeah, the road tour was mentioned, and it was a great road tour. We got to see a lot of neat things and stuff going on in the county with projects coming up and projects that are done. And Intergov was already mentioned, and that brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Kip. Mr. Drew?
Sure. Of course, our last meeting was October 10th, our board meeting, and that's where we finalized the sale of our ditch bonds, which is always a kind of a big deal, and it's nice to be able to get it at the rate we got it at. That Terry, I think it's Heaton, she helps us with that, with Lisa, our finances. And Scott Fickner, we renewed that contract they've been working on for a long time, the Ponderosa landfill. I thought that was a good thing. Went forward with that. We had a good luncheon, I thought, at the Papa George's restaurant. October 11th, multi-county transit, True Transit Advisory Board meeting there. That was our first one as the structure as it is now. It's our first, we've met, as a larger group, kind of, remember, Will?
Yep.
More inclusive with a lot of people. This is really big. It's a little smaller group, trying to get a good multidisciplinary background, people from each county. And we still have one space open for somebody who would be a regular user of transit from any of the counties. So they have one more slot open there. And then I was elected chair. So I'm chair of
Good for you.
the advisory.
All right.
October 11th again there, NACO membership call-in. Want to mention, I just got on that, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago with NACO, and you know, they look at retention of members, which, you know, helps all of our rates stay where they're at. And, you know, they do a good job. They're actually, out of most of the associations that exist, they maintain a higher percentage of membership than almost any association in the nation. So that's a pretty good thing already. But there's a few in Iowa and Wisconsin that have dropped out or just haven't paid and don't want to be actively involved. And I noticed that there was 2 right along our borders, west of or east of the Twin Cities, and then 2 just directly south of us in Iowa. And so I've agreed, when I can find the time as a member, to go visit those counties somehow, those boards or those commissioners, and see if there's something that they don't like or they just don't know about NACO, to see if I can bring in those. I made an agreement that I would try to bring in those 4 counties to be members of NACO, and I think that's kind of challenging, but that's something to do.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. And then, I want to mention too that on the membership committee, I believe that's Andrew Goldschmidt. You remember him? Andrew Vance, you've met him and know him.
I know Andrew.
Yeah, Will, you probably.
Yeah,
met Andrew.
I'm sure I remember. I'm sure I know him.
He's been there for like, I think, I'm going to say close to 20 years. And he's going on, I can't remember the association, but this is his last week. And he's always been a very professional, helpful person. I got to know him 5-6 years ago when NACO was actually working more on the TZD stuff, you know, traffic safety and road safety for people. So we had some workshops on that together, and so we'll be missing Andrew Goldschmidt, who's been with them for a long time. And then on the same day again then, later on we had that Region 9 Aviation Forum. I know Vance couldn't go, there's some conflicts, and let's see, who else was there? Anybody else here go?
No, we had the open house for the Hafner
For the
Drive.
Hafner.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of be there for this. Members were expected to be there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was a really eye-opening thing to see the value of our airports. And I know Vance knows this already, but to hear the numbers and then to hear how that impacts our communities financially, economically, the jobs that they produce, the vitality that they're a part of our community, and then especially we had a gentleman that reported, I don't have his name written here, but he is the basically executive director of the MSP commission, you know, and that's for the metro area. They've got the big airport, and they've got, I think, 5 or 6 other airports. You know, Flying Cloud, NOCA, St. Paul, downtown St. Paul has one, you know, and the support that these airports provide for the metro area is unbelievable. The millions and millions of dollars that pass through into the communities up there just because of the airports.
Well, I just got a thing this morning that it's $11.5 million impact and 164 jobs countywide, just what our airport does.
Just ours here.
Just here in the county.
So just imagine. And we're small potatoes compared to out there, you know. But
So
anyway, it was just very good to hear all the work that they do. I don't know if he liked my comment I said I had, because he was talking about all the technologically, all the things they've done. Maybe even the flight patterns have changed so that when they come in, I don't know how much time I got
Yeah,
here.
you.
A couple minutes?
No.
Well, they come in, they used to go like this. Remember, they come in and then they go down, and they go that round, and they go down again, and they go around. The hundreds of thousands of tons of fuel that creates by doing that, using. But now they just have it so they have the flight patterns so they can come down in and just come down in and land. So that, because they have to engine up every time they do those gradual. So just little things like that you learn, it just amazes me. I talked to them about the sonic booms I remember in the 60s that would blow out our windows in our house. But anyway, okay, I'll hurry here. Thursday the 12th, I went up to St. Paul all day. We had quite a group of people from around the entire state. It's just a work group that the county or the state Department of Health Commissioner is putting together, and it's called Strengthening Public Health in Minnesota Work Group. and we had a wonderful day-long informative time. This is an initial group meeting, and we have 2 more big ones. Mayors and clerks, we've got a report on that. Grace Lutheran, Albert Lee. Sunday I spoke at their adult forum for LSS. Tuesday, board work session, and that was great. I'll just concur that was a good time, and to see what's going on and what's going to happen, especially on that number 1. I like to see that, and hear about it. Luncheon at the what's that? The Lucky Lure Pizza place. That was I was really impressed. I'll tell you, if everybody wants some good pizza, go up there. Sunday the 22nd, I did go down to the marathon, Mankato Marathon. A lot of people downtown. It's only 4 blocks from my house where the finish line is, right by the law enforcement center.
Did you drive down? I'm just kidding.
No, I ran down, and that really took a lot out of me. I'm not used to running, but I ran 4 blocks. And Dawn's one of her very good friends was running in it. And then yesterday, I just want to mention this real quick. I'll try the 23rd. We had the Minnesota River Congress meeting in Henderson, Minnesota, and they still have a couple of places open for members in various categories, and I'm one of the governmental categories, and then there's still an opening for another one if you know somebody somewhere in the basin, maybe a city person or something, council. They're working on another, their ninth Minnesota River Congress meeting, which is coming up November 16th, and this will be over by Jordan, Minnesota. And so if anybody has any questions, please ask me, because this is water, and becoming a big deal in Minnesota. And then some local people here are putting together a big thing. We're trying to see if we can put together a water celebration in Mankato, and be maybe the first part, middle of June, and will be really quite interesting. So.
Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Drew. Well, at this point, we can bring up Scott Fickner and Scott there, and with our buffer law ordinance public hearing.
Morning, Scott.
Right.
Morning, Scott.
Scott.
You got her done.
We do. Okay. I should point out, we have the public hearing here, and the staff from Blue Earth County Environmental Services are here to answer questions regarding the proposed ordinance. And this hearing provides an opportunity for citizens and representatives from governmental entities to submit comments regarding the proposed ordinance. And Scott, at this point, do you have any comments you want to make to the board at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. A little summary of the ordinance that's before you. Minnesota Buffer Law, Minnesota Statute 103F.48 was signed into law by Governor Dayton in 2015 and amended by the legislature in 2016 and 17. The purpose of the buffer law is to protect state waters, state water resources from erosion and pollution runoff, stabilize soils, shores, and banks, and to protect or provide riparian corridors. The State Board of Water and Soil Resources is responsible for the administration and the enforcement of the buffer law unless a county elects to accept jurisdiction, which Blue Earth County did in June 2017. Counties that accept jurisdiction are required to develop a buffer ordinance for the enforcement of that program. Environmental Services, Taxpayer Services, the County Attorney's Office have worked on the development of the ordinance along with the assistance of the Soil and Water Conservation District, who would be working with closely. The Board of Water and Soil Resources must approve county buffer ordinances, and to assist counties, Bowser developed a model ordinance for the counties to use as their base. The Blue Earth County Buffer Ordinance follows the Board of Water and Soil Resources Model Ordinance very closely and is proposed for adoption to meet state requirements. The buffer ordinance before you will identify the width of the buffer areas required for public waters and public ditches, describes the procedures for measuring buffer width, explains procedures for county to address complaints and non-compliance issues, establishes enforcement procedures and administrative penalties, sets timelines for compliance and lists penalty amounts for non-compliance, and provides an appeal process. Notice of public hearing for the proposed Blue Earth County buffer ordinance was published in the newspaper on October 15th, and the ordinance has been available for review on the county website and at Environmental Services and Taxpayer Services offices since that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, at this time, we will open the public comment portion of the hearing. And the public comment portion of the hearing allows an opportunity for citizens to address the county board in a public setting. Please step forward to the podium here and state your name, address for the record. And at this time, if anybody wishes to come forward for any public comment, again, anybody wishing to come forward to comment on the buffer law ordinance, please come forward. Third time, anybody wishing to come forward to speak now, please do. Okay, hearing none from here, we'll bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Okay, boy.
Second.
Been moved to second? All right. It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
I've got a couple items. Quick question, Scott, just for clarity. So I appreciate, you mentioned where things were posted and public notices. And so was there any other efforts that we did as a county to communicate the deadline that the state has put on us for this? Because they can apply for a waiver for the first 6 months if they need to work with their SWCDs and things like that? Or is it just strictly that part of it was posted in the paper so they know that they can?
No, we had the Shoreline Buffer Initiative from 2011 through 2013, where we notified 336 landowners at that time before the law was in place. But since that time, in August of 2017, we mailed letters to all landowners along public waters, notifying them of compliance and the waiver deadlines that they're out there, and the new buffer law. And so that was the owners of over 400 parcels. 308 landowners received a letter. It was in the Fall Communicator as well as some of the other areas.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I think
a lot good reach out.
It's important to know that, and just to get it out there.
Right.
There's been some efforts that
Exactly.
more than just some posting in the paper. So if somebody complains about this,
Right.
there should be
It is out
4
there.
different ways that they should have been.
Yes, it
followed
is
up.
out there, and the Soil Water Conservation District has been fielding a number of questions and asks for assistance.
Thanks
So
very
we've
much.
been very transparent.
Yes.
That's exactly what we want to do. We want to be very transparent in what we're doing.
All right.
The penalties, do they reflect the minimum acceptable?
Yes, the penalties that are in there, the Board of Water and Soil Resources Model Ordinance gave us penalties in a range, and the penalties that are in our ordinance are the minimum that were allowed in the range from Bowser.
Which is adjustable if we want to make
Which is
adjustments later.
adjustable as time goes by if needed.
Okay, thank you for that.
That's great.
Any further questions, comments, discussion?
Good job.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, all those, yeah, very good job.
Good, thank you.
The whole department. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Scott.
Very good.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks,
That's
Scott.
quick.
Hey, and you brought us right
Yep.
back on time.
Yep, and then, yeah, we'll bring up Tim Hayes with the library director with the cooperative agreement.
I'm sure Tim's going to keep us a lot longer than 5 minutes.
Probably 2.5.
Hi, Tim. Morning.
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 So today I am bringing forward the Travis de Sioux agreements that we usually sign annually. They're brought forth to the county board, signed by the chair. This year, there's some significant changes in the contracts that I just wanted to point out to you. In the past, Blue Earth County has had some questions about the Travis de Sioux contracts as far as language, repercussions, those kinds of things. And so County Attorney Pat McDermott and I sat down along with Assistant County Attorney Nicole Smithing. And Pat and Nicole really laid the foundation for a lot more practical legal agreement between Travis de Sioux and Blue Earth County, which in fact then carried over to the other libraries within the Travis de Sioux region. But Pat did lay the groundwork. We took it to the Travis Day Sioux board. They formed a committee from Pat's work, and came up with a new type of agreement with each of the member libraries. There are actually 6 agreements. The first one is a membership agreement. In the past, we have signed these annually, and it really, in checking with other regions and just the practicality of it, there's no reason to sign a membership contract every year, because we're going to be members until something, happens. With some of the other agreements, particularly like the automation and courier service, Travis Day Sioux has contracts with the subcontractors, Cersei Dynex for automation, and those contracts go out 2 or 3 years. And so again, why sign an annual contract when they in fact have an agreement that is multi-year? And so what you have before you now are 6 agreements. Next year will be fewer, because we've signed the initial agreements on some of them. So we probably next year will only be bringing back 2 or 3 contracts, as opposed to the 6 that we have this year with the initiation of this. This year, our contracts total $65,644 for all the services that are provided by Travis Day Sioux. This is a $5,000 increase, but with the Travis Day Sioux board and a new executive director at Travis Day Sioux, there was what we believe to be a reasonable increase, and we seem to be happy with the direction Travis Day Sioux is taking, and the service that they are providing is significantly better than it has been the last few years.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, anybody have any questions? And
Do you want these all in one motion?
That's
probably all in one.
One
Yeah,
motion
that's
is fine.
Agreement.
Yep.
I would move the agreements.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion on the agreement?
I'm just, like Tim has stated, being on the board, and I see what we've done this last 2 years, and it's really amazing. And the TDS is doing such an amazing job. They're caught up with all the stuff they need to be caught up with now, and they're really helping the member libraries out like they're supposed to. So it's really kudos to directors like Tim and also TDS.
All right.
Well, it sounds like everybody's on board with it.
Yeah, it's really
Good-
it's really
good
positive.
program,
It's a positive feeling when you go to the board meeting, and that's as Will know, that's
Got to be refreshing.
it is amazing.
And you had such good legal help. So.
Yes,
That's it. We had
Excellent.
good legal help.
All right. Hearing no further discussions, questions, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. At this point, then, we'll have George Leary and his crew. All 3 gentlemen come up. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
You got,
Is this the 3 Musketeers or the?
don't cross them. Don't cross them, Vance.
You notice I didn't say 3 Stooges.
Yeah, but don't cross them. They may have swords.
Yeah, they probably do.
All right. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 04-17 is a request from Larry McMillan. It is a petition to vacate a portion of the unimproved platted right-of-way of Jessica Drive, unused utility easements, and a pedestrian walkway located in lots 1 through 6 of Block 1 Willowa Knolls subdivision. The property is zoned rural residence and is located in part of the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 19, Jamestown Township. Mr. Leary presented the staff report. The petitioner and his attorney were present. They had no initial comment. The owner of a developed lot within the Willowa Knolls subdivision and his attorney were also present. The attorney presented concerns of his client regarding the vacation request, stating that the pedestrian walkway provides lake access to other residents in the area. He also indicated there is an open lawsuit that involves boundary rights and ownership of the walking path, and the litigation is ongoing. The Planning Commission discussed the state statute requiring the 60 days and the possibility of taking advantage of the 60-day extension offered by the statute in order for the attorneys to work some things out. No further action on this discussion was suggested to be forwarded to the county board. The vacation of the pedestrian walkway was discussed at length. The petitioner's attorney acknowledged that the lawsuit had been started, but was stopped when it was learned that the walkway had not been dedicated. He reviewed the dedication instrument of the Willowa Knolls subdivision with the commission and advised them that there was no mention of the walkway in the dedication. He added that they reopened the estate of the previous owner to deed the walkway to the petitioner. He further added that the owner of Lot 7 did the same thing and obtained a deed from the previous owner. He claimed they have no intention of pursuing the lawsuit unless the county does not allow the petitioner to proceed with the vacation. The attorney stated that the previous owner was still alive when the walkway adjacent to Lot 7 was deeded over to the owners of Lot 7 and is now shown by the tax records as being owned by Lot 7. He advised the commission that the previous owner had an older home to the north and he developed a subdivision and wanted to reserve the walkway for himself for access to the lake running between lots 3 and 4 and continuing to the lake. The attorney was asked how something that was never dedicated could be vacated. The attorney responded that it can't be vacated, but something needs to be done. A planning commission member indicated that the plat clearly stated what is and is not dedicated. He added that the easements in the road were dedicated and there was no mention of a 10-foot pedestrian walkway being dedicated, and the plat listed it as a 10-foot private pedestrian walkway. Without it being dedicated, he questioned if it can be legally vacated. The possibility of removing the walkway vacation component of the recommendation was discussed. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the county board a recommendation of approval of the petitioned vacation with the added recommendation that the vacation of the pedestrian walkway not be acted on, and the board action is a resolution.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we'll open it up to public comments regarding PC 004-17. So at this point, if there's anybody wishing to speak on PC 04-17, please come forward, state your name and address. Anybody wishing to come forward again to speak on PC? There we go. Chuck?
Yeah, good morning.
Chuck.
I'm Chuck Peterson. I'm the attorney for Larry McMullen, and it was clear that I presented to the commission that the private walkway was never dedicated. It's not part of the plat. I reopened the estate of the owner who had reserved it and received a deed to it. So, we're fine with
We're okay.
just
All right.
vacating everything but the walkway. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck.
And we did dismiss our lawsuit too. I think I had forwarded a copy of the dismissal to Nicole Schmiesing, so there's nothing ongoing at the present
All right.
time.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, again, if there's anybody wishing to speak on PC 04-17, please come forward at this time. Okay, hearing no other further comments, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and action.
I'll move approval.
Then moved and second. Okay. Question?
I read through it several times trying to figure it out, because at one point there's a recommendation to go ahead with the vacation, but mainly for the utility side of things, right? Is that correct?
From the Planning Commission or from staff?
From the Planning Commission.
That's correct. The recommendation was to vacate that portion of the right-of-way and of the easements, but to take no action on that private pedestrian walkway.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And so, and I've never heard that. I mean, we don't deal a lot with these technical issues as a board that I'm aware of. Maybe some of you do, I don't. I know on some of my own property I've done that before, but I see that it's on the sketches of the county has. There's a little dotted line that shows a an easement or something, I don't know what it is, but you can see it on there, you know, where there's, is that where the walkway is also then, or is that just the utility area? It goes between all those lots, goes up, then it goes down to the lake. And
If I understand you correctly, Commissioner, it's an extension off the end of the cul-de-sac? You didn't say that, but is that the area you're talking about?
let's see, let me just look, okay, there's the red cul-de-sac, and then there's a marked area that's in yellow, and then there's also on lot, see mine gets blurry, it doesn't come in right away, it takes a long time, but now it's coming in on lot, I believe it's 7, that large lot down there. It shows a dotted line going around it, you know, with a space there, it was probably around 10 feet. And so that's not utility, that's the private walkway they're talking about that goes down to the lake. Is that the area? I'm not sure.
Mr.
Right here.
May I give
Right
this
here.
to the Commissioner?
Sure,
Right here?
sure.
Right there's, he's got the
You got it,
diagram.
George has it there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That might be a little easier to read.
Yeah, let's be a little bigger.
Okay.
So if you notice at the end of the cul-de-sac, and I
This
apologize
cul-de-sac
to, correct, and I apologize to the rest of the commissioners, you don't have this one in front of you, I just received this yesterday, but
Oh.
there's the private pedestrian walkway that extends off the end of the round cul-de-sac.
Right here.
That is the area that the Planning Commission is recommending that no action be taken on because it is
Private.
a private pedestrian walkway.
Okay, it's not dedicated.
It was never dedicated.
I don't know what that is. I didn't know there could be such a thing. If it's a private walkway, I should be able to put it wherever I want on my property. But then you go down this way, there's also a space just like that one going down to the lake. You see that space there? It's marked
Correct.
off.
And according to Mr. Peterson, Mr. McMullen's attorney, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was deeded over to the lot of Lot 7 sometime in the past. I couldn't tell you when.
Okay.
But that area has been deeded over to the owner of Lot 7.
So,
That area that runs straight north and
so we're not
south.
dealing with this at all then?
Not at all.
Not at all. We're not
And-
gonna say
and-
anything about it.
And according to the recommendation of the Planning Commission, they're recommending that you gentlemen do not take action on that area that extends to the southeast from the cul-de-sac.
This
No,
one
just-
here? Or this one?
That one there.
That one,
you-
yes.
Yes,
That's the one that goes east and west, basically, correct?
correct, yeah.
And then there's another one down here. Are those the utilities back here?
Yes.
They're all, that's about a 10-foot wide, it looks like, it goes along up in here.
Correct, and they are not part of the vacation request.
They are not part
It
of
is only those areas that are highlighted in yellow
In the yellow.
and the right-of-way in red.
Okay, and so, that's up to the landowners as a civil matter then to figure out this, if there's some issues going on down here. That's what I was asking. I guess I'm asking Pat maybe or somebody if there's a comment that we need to have about it.
That's what the report says. It's a private issue.
Private issue.
It's not been dedicated, so we can't vacate it.
Okay,
Simple as that.
that makes sense.
All right.
I need some clarity because it's
It's
since
complicated.
it's something we have to act on. I don't want to act on something at all if there's,
I understand.
yeah, it's related to it.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, well, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Thank you, George. Next,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Aaron.
PC 16-17 is a request from Jim Gross for review and approval of an after-the-fact conditional use permit for the movement and placement of fill within a bluff impact zone for the purpose of bringing an existing lake access path into compliance with county zoning regulations. The property is zoned rural residence and is also within the Shoreland Overlay District of Lake Washington. The property is described as Lot 6, Block 1 of the Gurney subdivision and the portion of the now vacated County State Aid Highway 2 adjacent to the property, all located in part of the northwest quarter of Section 20, Jamestown Township. Mr. Stubbs presented the staff report. The applicant was present. He expressed his concerns with the compliance dates. He provided the commission with some additional photos and also asked that the stairs be allowed to remain. He suggested that it might be difficult to find a contractor to do the work under the timeline laid out. He said it is not that he is not willing to do it, but rather working with the timeline that will be difficult. He also asked if the rock path could be covered and convert the area back to vegetation. He thought this would be easier than all the other work required. The removal of the stairs was discussed by the commission. The general consensus was that the stairs should be allowed to remain. The removal of some of the rock as part of the reduction of the rock-covered path width was discussed. The general consensus was the rock of the excess width must be removed and not covered up with soil. The Planning Commission ordered the applicant to work with staff on a plan of action to bring the cutting and filling activities into compliance with county standards prior to the October 24th County Board meeting. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation to delete the requirement that the stairs be removed from the property and for the applicant to work with staff on a compliance plan for the County Board, and the board action is the resolution. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, during the Planning Commission meeting, again, staff was instructed to meet with the property owner and develop a plan for the completion of the project with the proposed conditions. Staff has met on site with the property owner and reviewed the proposed conditions related to this proposal. After the meeting, the property owner developed a plan of action which meets the required conditions and applicable timeline for each item. This plan was completed after the county board packets were created, and I have a copy of the plan, and we can review it if you would like to.
Okay, I have a question, but this is a public hearing, so I don't know, should we talk to him now about it, or?
I have a little bit more.
We could let him finish, and then we'll open it to public.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks,
So
Aaron.
because the Planning Commission instructed staff and the property owner to work together to develop a plan, they did not take definitive action on all the proposed conditions related to this project. At this time, I would like to review the proposed conditions. Condition number 1, the project was originally intended to be heard in September, but complications from the variance request pushed it into October. During the meeting, the Planning Commission discussed changing this date to July 1st of 2018. With condition 2, this is a standard condition for those areas of the county with similar on-site characteristics. The path is nearly completed, and after several heavy rains, it appears to be stable today. It may not be necessary to have an engineer review the path based on its current condition. Conditions 3 through 8 have all been addressed in the landscape plan that we can go through here momentarily. And with condition 9, staff reviewed the area of the property while we were on site. Today the area is vegetated, and although there does appear to be enough area to grade and meet the required 3-to-1 slope, it's unlikely that vegetation will reestablish before winter if it's disturbed now. During the meeting, the Planning Commission discussed whether or not this condition was necessary and instructed staff to review the area further. It appears to be stable today, and it's staff's opinion that the County Board has 3 options to consider. 1 would be to leave the condition as written and require the work to be completed by November 1st of 2017. A second option would be to leave the condition as written but to adjust the completion date. And the third option to consider would be to remove that condition entirely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, at this point, we'll open it up to a public hearing on PC 16-17. Anybody wishing from the audience to come forward, please state their name and address and make any comments. Again, anybody wishing to speak on behalf of PC 16-17, please come forward. And a third call, anybody wishing to speak on PC 16-17, please come forward. Hearing no comments, we will bring it back to the board and for action and questions, discussion. And then we can continue with the...
All right.
Yep.
Well, should we do a little discussion just to clarify some of these points before we make a motion, so we can amend it? So at this point, the biggest thing on the table is condition number 9. Correct?
I would say conditions 1, 2, and 9.
1, 2, and 9.
From the report, from what I remember, I mean, there was some erosion in August or something they noticed down near the beach where there was erosion and gullies forming and running into the lake. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was with regard to the sand beach blanket that was there. Okay. Now we're talking, the area that we're talking about specifically now with the 3-to-1 slope is at the top of the hill where that sand beach blanket was down by the lake.
So it's probably from that, though, the water's coming down, don't you think, from that area or not?
It's probably more likely from the path, from the rock
from
path.
The path.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your district, right, Kim?
Yeah, go. Is this on Lake George?
Lake Washington.
Lake Washington. Okay.
So do we want to review condition number 1? I'm trying to find them, but I'm not there yet, so.
It's on page 78.
78, thank you. Do them one at a time.
Yeah. Review each one.
So the vegetation prior to November 1st is problematic, is that what I'm hearing? So you want us to change that date to a different, or your
So during the
suggestion is-
planning commission, they discussed changing it to July 1st of
Okay.
2018, but that would be, there was no definitive action.
It was July 1st, or your third option was to do nothing at all?
That was only for
That's for
condition
number 9.
9.
Oh, that's for number 9.
We're working on,
We're
let's
just,
work.
this
yeah,
is specific to condition 1.
Okay.
So I guess I'm comfortable with moving it to July. I mean, we ain't gonna get vegetation growing at this point
Makes
anymore.
sense to me.
So
Yep.
I just, it would have been nice if it was done, but if, I mean, this just ain't gonna happen. So we gotta have a date, we gotta have a deadline that we can enforce, and we can't enforce November 1st.
Yeah.
Correct. It's only a couple of days away.
And how wide is the path now?
When originally constructed, the path was 8 to 10 feet wide, and regulations require it to be 4 feet wide. And the property owner, that was addressed in the Board of Adjustment, and the property owner is working to bring that back into that 4
Back to
foot
4
wide.
feet.
How would you do that?
He's removing rocks on the side, leaving the 4 foot wide path in the middle, and then replacing black dirt. And he has erosion control installed now, waiting for and he's putting the erosion matting over it to
Oh,
help
okay.
hold it in place.
So you're thinking that somehow it's a hard enough surface that the water's running down that pathway down to the beach area?
Yeah, it's pretty steep, the whole hillside,
Oh.
that path and all
You
that.
think it was so wide because they wanted to be able to bring their own boats down and back with a vehicle, or what was the deal?
I think they were just unaware of the regulation of the width, and they
Oh.
just cut a path that accommodated the size of equipment that he had. That was what the property owner said was the reason that they made that path so wide initially.
Okay. Is the property owner here?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So I think,
If you,
Any comments about it that
Well-
would help us, or?
Yeah, would you like me to get up and speak, or?
you want to come, I don't know, we're in the middle
It
of.
is a public hearing.
Yeah, so I guess
Not
so.
anymore, but-
Yeah, it wasn't
you got
anymore.
you have a question for him, Drew?
Yeah,
Well,
if you have
just
a question
wondering,
for him, you can
does
come
that-
forward
Does that
to.
adequately sound like that's probably adequate or a correct assessment of the pathway?
Yeah, Jim
Just-
Gross from Fairview Lane. We'll get it down to the 4 foot. The rock, I mean, I've got most of it to the 4 foot already. We got most of that removed. I do have the blankets down with the mesh and the straw already. And then I've got a few of the silt blankets. The erosion won't be an issue. I know the August part of it showed a little bit, but a lot of that was right along the sand blanket where it came down the path, and then I mean, the depth of it was less than 1 inch deep, so the pictures looked like they were bad, but I didn't do anything with that. We've got most of the sand blanket taken care of.
Sure.
Right now, I've taken care of the top part. I did put seed down, but I'm guessing that's not going to take by the whatever. And then when I talked to the seed guy, he says, you know, putting it down this time of year, if it does germinate, it most likely won't happen, so I'll have to reseed it in the spring. But I do have it. In the width of the path, a lot of the rocks, just as we were going up and down, got pushed out. It really wasn't. I mean, yes, it measured 8 foot, but I took a lot of the rock out, and then I brought the rest of it. So a lot of it up at top is only probably 3 foot wide, and then around the corners and stuff, it's still down to 4 foot. So I've got a lot of it accomplished. It's just a matter of letting it heal up now, and the width. Again, the path was there already. What I did is take some of the steepness out. The path was put in back in '91 when he added to the house, before the shoreland or the
Shoreline ordinances?
came into in 1996, and he had built the house in 1978. he remodeled in 91. He put in the path and the stairs, and I didn't realize that I needed a permit for that. And I wasn't making a new path, I stayed on the old path, but it did get wider and more level because I was taking down a vehicle.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So back in condition 1, I'm comfortable with moving, since he's got some erosion control in place. I think that's important. And he ain't gonna get any road till now, so I don't have a problem with moving from November 1st to July 1st. As far as the second condition, I certainly don't have a problem removing that. He's got the path in place. And as far as the 9th condition, I talked with staff about this. I'm a little more familiar with the situation, so I'm on the Planning and Zoning Board. I certainly would take the recommendation of the staff of not disturbing that and just leaving it the way it is, because it apparently is non-eventful at this point, so.
Okay.
I would move that with those 3 adjustments at this point.
Second.
Okay. And moved in second. Any further discussion on PC 16-17? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, gentlemen. We got
PC 18-17 is a request from Samuelson Hardwoods Incorporated. Is a request for review and approval of the Landon Woods, a subdivision plat consisting of 1 lot. The property is zoned light industrial and is also located in the urban fringe overlay district of the city of Mankato. The property is located in part of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter of section 23, South Bend Township. Mr. Leary presented the staff report. The applicants were represented. There was no public comment and little discussion by the Planning Commission. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the recommendation made by staff, and the board action is a resolution.
okay. Still a public hearing with, so if there's any comments from the audience on PC 18-17, please come forward, state name and address. Anybody wishing to speak on PC 18-17, please come forward. For the 3rd time, anybody wishing to speak on PC 18-17, please come forward. And hearing no comments, we'll bring it back to the board for resolution action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion?
Can you just say it in layman's terms what they really want done there, what's going on?
Good question. Actually, it's a very small lot. It's a half acre. And what they did was they talked about a while ago. They're splitting off an area of county-owned right-of-way to accommodate a future septic drain field. And because of the zoning regulations and because it's zoned light industrial, that's what triggered the need for the subdivision plat.
Oh, so what we acted on before didn't really work because we acted on this. This was brought before us by Public Works.
No, I think he just brought it.
That was to split off that piece of right
off.
away. Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
I got you.
Yeah.
So now this is a follow-up.
Now it's part of the subdivision plan.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Now I understand.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now we're back. We got the Brood Family Trust.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 19-17 is a request from the Broody Family Trust and USS Broody Solar LLC for review and approval of a conditional use permit to construct and operate a large solar energy system. The proposed project will span approximately 8.7 acres and will have a power capacity of up to 1 megawatt, which by Blue Earth County standards is classified as a large energy system. The property is zoned agricultural and is located in part of the eastern half of the southeast quarter of Section 3, Rapidan Township. Mr. Stubbs presented the staff report. The applicants were represented. The solar company representative stated the request is similar to a recent project and that school districts and residents can benefit from the project. He stated this site is adjacent to a township road. He added the project meets or exceeds all the requirements and the panels will have a maximum height of 10 feet. Native grasses and pollinator-friendly mix will be planted. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the recommendations made by staff, and the board action is the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Okay, this is a public hearing for PC 19-17. Anybody wishing to come forward to comment? Now is your chance here. Okay, state your name and address, please.
David Watts, US Solar. 100 North 6th Street, Minneapolis 55403. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, my name is David Watts. I'm a project developer at US Solar. US Solar is a small business headquartered in Minneapolis that develops, owns, and operates community solar gardens. I was here recently to discuss a project on Roy Laborde's property. It's a very similar project, nearly identical in some ways. We began working with Doris, Rudy, Brian, and Lori in this project in 2016. Met with staff several months ago. Staff found no obvious hurdles and has now recommended approval. The township unanimously recommended approval as well, given some, some feedback on the road use as it is off township road. And the Planning Commission also unanimously recommended approval. Due to the thoroughness of the staff's report, I'll try to keep my remarks short. But I am also here and happy to answer any questions if there's anything that I might be able to add. We reviewed the conditions. They seem fair and agreeable. The main difference between these sites is, again, the township road, which in this case we do have the township's recommendation of approval there. And in all of the other components of the ordinance in our application, we meet or exceed those requirements. We also have an interconnection agreement with Xcel Energy already, so they have agreed to allow our project to interconnect to their grid for the next 25 years. We're complying with all state and national electric codes. As Mr. Stubbs mentioned, our panels are also shorter than most that you would see if you were to drive around and look at existing projects or projects in construction. Those are mostly fixed tilt systems, which are typically about 15 feet tall, and they don't move. They're just facing south. These rotate from east to west as the sun rises and sets. That gives them a much shorter height, typically about 5 to 8 feet, depending on the tilt, with a maximum of 10 if we put them to full tilt to try to get snow off, for example. The environmental health review found no items of concern, and there is no additional need for infrastructure or public services. As Mr. Stubbs mentioned, one thing that I find very important and a huge benefit of this program is that we work with local folks, so school districts, cities, county offices, residents, etc. And these are our subscribers. They can subscribe and save money on these agreements at no upfront cost. And finally, of course, we are using an inexhaustible resource, the sun, to generate clean energy here locally, as opposed to importing it or using more traditional energy sources. We do all this while providing great economic opportunity to the taxpaying landowner and to the community. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but we respectfully request approval of our conditional use permit.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Watts?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I've got one. I was just curious about the trigger dates, for actually installation and things like that. Are there a lot of things dependent upon when this gets put in? Because, as you know, if you've been tracking our road development out there, that's number one, and there'll be a significant amount of construction going on out there. I believe, when is that one set for? That portion, it's right from number 9, it's just over before it goes down the hill on number 1 there, highway number 1. Is that the second phase, so that's not going to be till 19, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So will this be in before 19, do you think, or?
Yes, sir. I anticipate we'll begin construction in the spring. There's still a little bit of final touches we need to put on, get building permits and SWEP permits, everything like that. But I think we'd be good to go in spring, and the actual construction, the active construction takes about 2 months.
Yeah, that should be fine.
The bulk of our deliveries
if you're doing it next year anytime, it should be all right, I think, I'm pretty sure. I just know we've got two phase into 2 phases. The first half of the project is from Mankato out to 90. Okay, that's happening next year. And then from 90 to number 9, which is right up here, is the following year. So that's kind of 19, from what I understand. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to the board.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yeah.
Good job.
All right, now we have,
PC 20-17 is a request from Jeffrey and Deborah Henry for review and approval of a conditional use permit to allow for a second residential dwelling to be utilized as an elder care dwelling. The property is zoned agricultural and is located in part of the southwest quarter of Section 20, Decoria Township. Mr. Rolfing presented the staff report. The applicant was present and had no comment. There was no public comment and little discussion by the Planning Commission. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the recommendations made by staff. The board action is the resolution. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Let's see, any people out in the audience wish to respond or comment on PC 20-17? Anybody wishing to respond to PC 20-17, please come forward. State your name and address, please.
Deborah Henry, 57390 174th Lane, Good Thunder, Minnesota. I just want to thank you for your time and request that you approve my request.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Again, anybody wishing to comment on 20-17, please come forward. Hearing no further comments, we'll bring it back to the board for resolution.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay. I just have a question. What kind? I mean, it says residential dwelling for elder care dwelling. It's not one of those. What do they call it? What did we pass? That?
No.
It's not, no, it's,
One of those trailers you haul in?
What?
well, you know, we passed
is
that,
it?
and it was a big fanfare, and I haven't
Could
heard
you-
much since.
Could
about
we,
that,
could
yeah.
we get more of what it really is? I mean,
Yeah, that would be good if you could. Yeah.
What's going to happen there? Are we going to have a, you know?
Actually, what we're doing is we're putting up a utility shed that's 40 by 60.
Oh, okay.
And within that utility shed will be a 600 square foot living area for my father. And then once it won't be used, unfortunately, we'll have to remove that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's amazing.
All right. So that's,
Well,
that's
it
yeah.
eliminates
Yep.
future costs if we ever needed a nursing home or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
This way
Oh, yeah.
we can get him out of his home while he still can do things and be with us,
Yep.
not by himself.
I
cool.
really appreciate you doing that. Because I fall back on when I grew up. My grandparents came and lived in a trailer house right next to our house up in Breckenridge, Minnesota. Same type of idea. We're keeping them out of the nursing homes. We're taking care of them, and you're doing the same thing. And I really appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Yep,
Well, up to a
appreciate
couple
that.
years ago, this
Yeah.
wasn't even allowed in Blue Earth County.
Yeah, and that's
We amended
what I
it.
was.
That's
We amended them.
Yep.
Yep.
But I didn't realize in that resolution, just some for discussion purposes, if that's okay, Mr. Chair, I didn't realize that, I thought that we allowed additions to go onto houses, we allowed additional structures to be on there. I didn't realize that they had to remove something once the person had passed away, or
Yep,
once.
yep, that's always been part of the discussion.
It's
So
just
in
for
other words, if you
living
put an addition on
quarters.
your house, you gotta remove that too?
No, it's just, it can't be a
A separate
livable, like
structure.
it couldn't be a second part of a dwelling.
No.
It'd have to be a single family dwelling, so some of the components would have to be taken out.
Some of the components.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not everything.
So
Not
they
everything.
can't rent it out to somebody else.
That's the main thing.
Big thing would be able to rent out, right?
Okay, but they could leave their toilet in there or something. Sure.
They could make it an office space.
Yeah. All right.
Well, this was a long process, and I just have to commend Deborah because she had to be here for the Board of Adjustments at 7, and she was the last one on the agenda at 5 to 11 that night. So just to note that.
They should have had you first.
What a
somehow. What's
trooper.
the deal?
We should have had her first today, but that was a long meeting for her because that was a long meeting. So
Appreciate what you're doing, and
I thank George and his community too. They've really been helpful.
it's good.
Thank you.
It's good.
We got good people.
All right. Any further discussion? Otherwise, the resolution in front of us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Real productive.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Nice, thank you.
All right.
You're right on time,
Oh,
Mr. Chair.
right.
according to the-
Yeah, we have to take break. Few minute break here. Well, then we'll start, I guess. Well, he'll be here.
Sure.
Okay, Josh, you want to come forward and deal with our juvenile work crew agreement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Commissioners. Just have one
Morning,
item
Josh.
this morning.
Yep, good morning.
Since 2012, we've had our juvenile work crew agreement with Nicolet County, whereas we purchase services from Nicolet County Probation, and it allows us to have our juveniles that are on juvenile probation work their work crew hours through Nicolet County. It's a one-year agreement and for a sum of $2,500. And I would respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners approve the agreement.
Move to approve.
It's been moved. A second?
Second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
It's a great program.
Yeah, it really is working.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. We still have some struggle with sometimes getting our kids to juvenile work crew, as most of our juveniles, they do not have driver's license or transportation. We worked on transportation. They've worked on efforts to come and pick up some at school, so we're working to improve that again for 2018, but it's been successful thus far.
Good, good. I've heard always good things. Okay, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
you. Well, we can then bring up our esteemed county engineer.
Morning,
Like
Ryan.
that word? Morning, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
And it's all sincerity too, because it is a big word, kind of, you know.
I greatly appreciate that. No spelling test.
Yeah, I guess our speed study.
Yeah, the one item I have as an action item today is consideration of a resolution to request a speed study for County State Aid Highway 17, which is Madison Avenue, on our segment from Minnesota Highway 22 roundabout to the east to the Carver Road roundabout. This resolution request is product of our most recent intergovernmental committee meeting between the county and the city of Mankato, where Commissioners Brunder and Struenberg were both in attendance, and this was the outcome of the discussion that both agencies would pursue speed studies on their respective segments to set legal speed limits. As I think we've discussed in the past, speed limits are a little bit of a sticky subject, and really the legal limit is 55 miles per hour on our rural roadway segments, and then in urban areas where structures are 100 feet apart, you have the authority to drop it down to 30 miles per hour. Really, realistically, for counties, everything in between requires a speed study to be completed by the Commissioner of Transportation.
I would move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved. There's a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Okay, moved and second for the study. Any discussion, questions? Sure there's some. Drew?
Has anybody ever gone out there and measured to see how far apart those two buildings are right there? Let's say Mankato Ford and Fromm's Auto. Is that less or more than 100 feet apart, do you think?
I have not gone out specifically myself and measured, but I would assume it's more than 100 feet given the spacing in the parking lot.
Because you got the big road.
The road and area.
And then also between the other buildings, the next one down would be the clinic, and we're also requesting for the entire segment, which would take you all the way down to Carver, where there's no development on that other side.
Then the second question I have is this city right there, is that city area, that's a city
limits, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the city also goes all the way back towards the west, all along Madison Avenue, which is 17, all the way into to below the hill down by Front Street.
17 stops, county jurisdiction stops at Highway 22. West of Highway 22 is a city street. It's no longer a county state.
So it's actually been turned back to the city then, it's been changed.
It's never been county stated highway to my knowledge.
It never has been.
Not in the recent past, no.
Because I thought at one time it was, we had a ditch
17
system.
is always old Highway 14 from Minnesota Highway 22 to the east, through and through Eagle Lake, and then actually goes up and around County Road 27 and carries on to the east almost to the county line.
Yeah, there was a state highway up till
used to be
10
old
years
Highway
ago.
14.
That's what I thought. So didn't that go all the way down as 14?
No, because it stopped at 22. The state highway stopped 14 to 22, from my recollection. But yeah, it was always Madison Avenue, a city street.
They had a county ditch along Madison Avenue, and so that's why I assumed we had it as a county road.
Oh, no, the county ditch was probably a drainage ditch for the drainage system.
Well,
so it's
it was a county.
It
ditch.
was a buried tile system underneath Madison Avenue, but I don't have it. It had no relationship to the road.
not a road county ditch. It was a county ditch system for drainage.
Right.
So that's
So the road was totally separate
different,
from that.
Yeah, but separate
County
from
ditches
that.
are obviously under Taxpayer Services Department, and the highways are under mine.
Didn't we abandon that, Bob? We finally gave that back to the city?
back to them.
Yeah.
Since my tenure, I think we've done that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for some reason, I was wondering why we're dealing with this separately. That was my question. You know, that they have to, the the city has to do their own
Right,
resolution. We can't just do it all in one and have it done, have MnDOT take a look at it. We
They're
can't do
different jurisdictional.
I think they'll tie them together would be my
I would
assumption.
certainly think they will. When I spoke with the state about the speed study, they had expressed interest and want to also evaluate the segment of Madison Avenue west of Highway 22.
Yeah.
I had stated that was the city's decision to pursue that, which it sounds like they've
Now,
approved.
did
Did they approve that?
I
Thank
didn't
you, Brian.
see that. I saw a resolution last night, but I didn't see a request from MnDOT to do a speed study.
I think that the resolution that they had presented in the IGC meeting was just concurrence that they would pursue the speed study.
Okay.
How they go about that schematically, I'm uncertain.
Okay.
That was my, my issue is I'd like to see them do the whole section of road. So as long as they're on board, I guess, we
Yeah,
certainly should do our
We
section.
only have control on our segment to request the speed study.
Yeah. And I know I mentions this to Bob and to, who was it? Did I talk to you or who was it? I can't remember. So many things have happened, it seems like from day to day, but that once we do this, I just noticed in the resolution that we're saying we're gonna agree with what MnDOT comes up with and we're gonna go ahead with whatever they recommend and we're gonna sign it accordingly. So if they say, sorry, we want 55 miles an hour all the way through there, regardless, we're gonna put 55-mile-an-hour signs up right there. That's what we're gonna do.
That is the concern of pursuing the speed study,
That's
is that the state
that's an issue.
statute effectively requires you to sign it what they designate it as.
Can we state
When they-
reservations
when
with
they
the?
when they do a speed study, though, they take the average speed of what I mean it, and I don't think, I mean, we've already done some speed studies
Right.
there, and the average speed right around the intersection is about 35. Okay, further east towards
Adams, or I mean,
Carver, it goes up to
Yeah,
40 and 45, but we've made some very positive things to try to reduce the speed there. We took the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit out of there. We put flashing yellow 35-mile-an-hour signs, warning signs, plus another. We have two yellow warning signs, advisory signs on both sides of the road, eastbound, westbound, and of course, the state's going to take into consideration the whole area. They're going to listen to our concerns. They're going to listen to the concerns of the city of Mankato. Do we have to abide by what they say? They might say 40. They might say 35. They might say 30. Yeah, we have to abide. Once we do a speed study,
Once you do it.
But
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's 55 from my understanding. If it's not,
Right now.
yeah.
right now it's
Right now,
I know.
55.
Well, Monks, I just remember Monks, and just to do a comparison, the MnDOT had been in there, let's just say, in a given year, and it was within a year, and they didn't realize that we were gonna put in that new grade school off of Monks, what's it called?
Right.
Rosa Parks.
The pedestrian crossing with the
Yeah, and they didn't know it.
flashing signal.
So they didn't realize that it was that involved, that we had over 100 kids that were gonna be crossing that road daily, back and forth. And then, through the board's actions of recommendations, the county engineer requested a speed study. And they reduced it 5 miles an hour and put that, and then worked with the Safe Routes to School people and got the sign, got the.
And that is partially why we have the significant concerns regarding public safety paragraph in here, or sentence in here. I think also as supplementary, I'm going to provide the two intersection studies that have been completed in 2016, 2017 that document some of the crash history and some of the traffic movements, so that they have a full understanding. And my conversations with the district staff have also centered around our concerns about the safety at that intersection. So they're fully aware of the subject matter.
They're fully aware of it, but for some reason they weren't fully aware of it just a few years ago when they recommended 45 on Monks. When that year, the next year we put a school in, which was planned for 2 years. And so my request is, can we also include in this information we give them the planned development that's going in all over that whole region there? Can we give them what's going to happen, construction with number 12, being completed, with subdivisions that are already being plotted out back there, with all these other things, so they understand that there's a changing
I can
network.
provide,
I certainly believe, again, from my conversations, that they have a full understanding of that.
Yeah.
I'll provide the
They-
crash
they-
history and the data. I hope so.
Well, I think the lead up to this has been a lot more brought more awareness for everybody, and definitely I'm sure MnDOT's been following it. You're dealing with something with that school that, they might not, there might.
Well, then I'm leading up to one more thing, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but you're the chair, I believe, of MAPLE, of the
Yeah.
Metropolitan Planning Organization that we have here. And I haven't heard them weigh in at all on this thing. And so I just think that they should have been brought on board with this, and I hope they will now, because the reason we're running into these problems, which Ryan agrees with, I know, and probably everybody here, is that there isn't a big vision plan going on. And so there should be frontage roads probably put in out there. There should have been all these other things, but it's too late. Development happened years ago. And so we didn't realize how developed that was going to get. Now we have a MAPLE organization that's looking at these things, hopefully, and we can plan further for down the road.
You had, before that, we did that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying that they should be a part of this whole thing. That's where, the 2045 long-range transportation plan comes into play, and the MATAP studies ahead of that. They weren't around when that intersection was initially configured, but they have looked at the city's AUAR for future development and those needs. And through the MPO, in order for any of the agencies within the MPO to receive federal funds towards a project, it's required that that project be coordinated through the MAPO in their planning process, be identified in their long-range transportation plan. So Adams Street, County Road 12 have all been observed and noted that they are important for the future road and infrastructure, networking within that regional growth.
We know that now.
But I mean, it's a good point, Drew.
It's a good
There's
point.
a lot of development going on.
I
And I'm sure
absolutely agree with you.
Yep.
Ryan
And I
will-
think Ryan will be sending up to MnDOT all the information we have. Of course, there's unknowns.
Yeah.
We don't know what businesses are planning to move east.
Right.
We don't know that. But all we can do is send up to MnDOT what we already know. And what we already know is that there's going to be a lot of businesses. I mean, with Adams Street, there's going to be a lot of businesses on Adams Street all the way out to County Road 12.
Yeah.
We know that. So
That's what I was going to say, but when
in the MAPO,
in the MAPO long-range transportation plan, it was identified that County State Highway 17 will become a minor arterial roadway. So even at the next elevation and functional status, and with that, the projected traffic growth in 2045 is, I believe, 16,500 vehicles per day. So we'll provide some of that information to them as well. And again, our concerns and the data we have with respect to the functionality and safety concerns of the intersection, so that they can take that into consideration in their speed study. I know, I just know that in my own head, which is just Drew Campbell's head, is that I'm looking at, we have 4 lanes there now. Maybe we should have just had really super 2 lanes, very wide lanes coming in, looking back, and planning for maybe a frontage road for all the businesses that are going to be going in up there, if that's really going to happen in the future. Because frontage roads, I've noticed in a lot of the suburbs, that's what they utilize. So it takes off the pressure off of the vein where you're trying to get through. And they have the side roads that you get onto, and limit the intersections. There will be, the city street network as it's being built out. So between the new Nissan and Volkswagen dealership, there will be a road that goes through, and I forget the name of the road, but that'll carry some of that frontage traffic, like you're talking about with the future city street network. Their methodology has been to, as development occurs, build that infrastructure along with the development, so that the developers absorb the cost of that. Roads and sewer and everything else.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ryan, on that. Do we have any?
We got a motion.
So you guys are all right with giving that up over to MnDOT and letting them decide?
You bet.
I think we need to weigh in on it, though. I think that's important.
Yep, and that's, we're weighing in on it. Okay, we have a motion in front of us. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
We'll compile that data and get this over to the state. Just one other I guess, point of discussion, not necessarily needing a formal approval, but the conversation was that the city and the county work together to develop a joint cooperative agreement between both agencies for construction of a roundabout targeted in fiscal year, calendar year 2019. So with that being said, I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that approach as we proceed forward. That was the direction
We got to do
given to
something.
staff.
Yep. You know, we'll just keep moving forward with it.
My concern there is that we have to, as soon as possible, get something safe on that intersection. I mean, the county would like to throw in a safety measure which has been cut off by the city of Mankato, but we need to put something in there before somebody, you know, the problem is we can't do it before 2019, but if we, you know, as soon as possible get some sort of a safety measure, so it's got to be put in. I've talked to the business people about the 3 or 4 months, and they're comfortable with that. They understand that that's going to happen. So I would very much be for a roundabout there in 19 if we can swing it.
And my only concern, Ryan, just, you know, is that we also consider the pedestrian traffic. Because as that place gets built up out there, we're going to have pedestrians.
Yep.
And bicycles and things. And right now, I wouldn't recommend anybody go across that intersection, personally.
Right. So the roundabout will, sorry, go ahead.
So they have to go back to the main roundabout on 22 in order to get across, or go all the way down to Carver Road.
Yep.
Somewhere, get down there somehow, and come across, and then go on that side of
walk through
north
the mall.
side.
Walk through.
One of the beauties of the roundabouts is that they do offer those mid-crossing pedestrian refuge islands, so those would be incorporated into the design with pedestrian safety in mind. Yep, absolutely.
Another nice thing with the roundabout is that it really requires somebody to go down to 15 or 20 miles an hour. I mean, to make the roundabout.
Yeah.
You can't make it otherwise. So where you got traffic there going 35, 40 miles an hour going through there, you know, it's going to require, so it'll be safer for people to cross there by pedestrians.
We got a DQ up there. We got McDonald's. We got all those businesses up there.
That's so close to the Madison. It's so close to the big roundabout there now. This will be so they aren't going to get the speed up too much. So we'll be.
Trust me,
it'll be slower.
As Drew well knows, when they come off that big roundabout, they can get speed up really fast.
But I'm just saying they'll be already into the other one. So I don't
and there were,
think
like I said, there were accidents this weekend. You know, so even with all the work that we've done to try to slow that speed down, we well know it's not so much the speed as people taking chances coming off from those intersections, and they keep on doing it no matter if its speed is 30 or 45. They keep on doing it.
Right.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that?
Nope.
We will revise and move that into the capital improvement plan into 2019 for budgeting purposes, and work on that cooperative agreement with the city.
So it wasn't, we were going to look at 220, but we're moving it back to 219.
Moving it up to 219.
Up to 219.
Well, with the uncertainty and the lack of clarity at this, when we did the draft CIP, I think right now in the draft it's shown in 2022, but we'll move it into 19.
Wow.
So that was just because, again, there was uncertainty as far as what was going to happen.
And so you won't push the Stoltzman Road thing out because of that, will you? I mean, the trail.
I don't anticipate that. We'll see.
Let's keep on track here, Drew. Let's keep on track.
I'll help you with that. I'll be on him. I'll be on him.
talk.
We'll talk.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay.
Oh boy.
Let's see. What time is it?
Human Services.
Oh my goodness, we are beyond. Yes, we're ready for the Phil Clausen show here.
Where's your dog, Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Dog's at home sleeping.
I saw him walking the trail in New Park.
Oh,
did you?
Morning, Phil.
Good morning.
Morning,
What
Phil.
kind of dog you got, Phil?
A golden retriever.
Oh, you got a golden?
Yeah.
Really nice dog.
Beautiful dog.
Very
Beautiful dog.
Love
Very
goldens.
beautiful.
Kind of like his owner, yeah.
Yes, and he has some anxieties like his own. That's right. You're right about that. Well, I know have purposely gone to some 2-year contracts, and I think you've seen a lull in our volume, which has been great, but I think we're ramping up for the end of the year and beginning of 18 where we'll see volume again. Today I just have one action item for your attention and ask approval on a mental health clinic contract with Nicollet County for psychiatric services. Nicollet County Human Services would contract with Blue Earth County for psychiatric med management, diagnostic assessment, urgent care for adults residing in Nicollet County. These adults would be diagnosed with a serious mental illness. So our whole adult initiative focuses on serious and persistent mental illness, kind of the most pervasive category. So this is the next step down that is not part of those resources. And it is a county responsibility to figure out how we provide those. So Nicollet County's reaching out and asking us to partner with them. It also includes an hour a month of psychiatric consultation, so Dr. Farnsworth, I believe, would be the one that does that. This is a new contract at $50,000. The term is January 1st of 18 through December 31st of 18. And that's all I have for action items.
All right.
I have a question for you on that, Phil. Just wondering, how many counties do we have contracts like this with, you know?
Well, really, it's just now Nicollet and LeSueur.
And
so
LeSueur.
those two. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
And you guys have really gotten together and do you really believe we've got the capacity to take it on?
Yeah,
I mean, that's my concern.
Right.
Because we have a lot of mental health concerns in Blue Earth County.
Absolutely. And so this is a psychiatric component that I think we're better positioned for than like the therapeutic component, which we're pretty light on right now. So if this was a request to do therapy, I would say we don't have the capacity. Because we have the advanced practice nurses and Dr. Farnsworth, we have capacity. And so this is really because of our 10-county hub clinic that we extend that out and say, can we also see some of these SPMI individuals? It isn't a big number, 20 to 30 individuals right now is what we're talking about. So their volume is not real high. And the contract with LeSueur, which has been in place for quite some time, has gone quite well. And I do think it builds a good bridge in the region because we have similar providers, similar philosophies, and we cross over and meet with their staff. And some of those benefits, and especially with Nicollet County right across the river, it makes some good kind of business sense.
And they have mental health staff.
They do. They have mental health caseworkers, but they don't have a Rule 29 clinic. So that's one thing very unique. I think there's 5 counties in Minnesota that have a clinic like ours, so that is a very unique function that we provide. There's actually a lot of efficiencies in that. The cost of this compared to other counties, ours is actually quite low. So this is a way to mitigate some of our costs by providing the direct care.
And we provide 1 hour per month of psychiatric
of the
consultation.
Right. So a lot of the direct service to those, let's say 30 people or so, and then also an hour per month to go over and talk to the staff and talk about those.
Yeah. And like I said, it's doable.
I think if we had to...
I just hear how stressed out some of the staff are in our county. I'm just thinking, can we really even do it?
And that economy of scale, Commissioner, which is so true, is that if this was about then us coming back and saying, now we need another prescriber, there's no efficiency in that. So this is really because we have that margin in the existing staff that we feel we can do this without any increase in staffing time. Right.
All right.
I'll move approval.
It's been moved in a second. Drew, are you seconding it? I guess.
Sure.
Okay.
I just barely beat Vance.
He's good. He's good.
All right. Any other further questions, comments? All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Some discussion items. This is not a new area, but I believe it to be a pretty complex and sometimes hard to capture area of practice. One big split out that I describe is when we talk about min choices, which is really the assessment function
of how we look at folks that are either over 65, which go to public health, or under 65, which tend to have disabilities, is those two different populations. They all get this one Min Choices assessment. And so we've talked to you about this a lot because there's some changes underway. The assessment itself was the first big change, and I think Kelly has in here, or Lynette, that it's still taking us 6 to 7 hours to complete an assessment. It's very intensive. And even the reassessment that we do afterwards takes a similar amount of time. So it's a very intensive process. Certainly we gain a lot of information, and then we'll talk a little bit about the other major change, which is we're also going to now need to be assessing people that are imports into our county, is how I found best to describe it. We also obviously export some people that are our responsibility but live somewhere else, so we'll talk about that data real briefly too. The first slide under public health then, so this would be the over 65 population. The managed care programs, we act as part of their organization. We contract with them for folks that are served by the managed cares over 65 and would have been on or qualify for medical assistance. They pick a health plan, and in the small print you see our 3 providers there, Blue Plus, Medica, or UCare, and then we serve the case through the care management. The next section there is home and community-based care programs. So this is the actual services themselves. Again, all residents who are over 65 can ask for the assessment part, but only people that financially qualify would get the case management part. And so that's a distinction once we get down into the programming. And then you see highlighted with the asterisks in small print the different waiver functions that we have that you'll hear kicked around from time to time. Elderly waiver, alternative care, personal care attendant, or most often referred to as PCA. So those are all the types of services they can get if they qualify for those services. The next graph has a lot of narrative on it, and I won't be going through that, but just to see the volume that we're talking about, 900 cases, a pretty flat volume. There was a spike in 2015. We expect this year to be similar to last, with very high volume in this area of public health still. The next slide talks about FTE, or full-time equivalent of staff to caseload ratio, and you'll see that actually, and this is a byproduct of you guys supporting us with some staff and our ability to move some people around, we've been able to manage our caseloads down towards that 100 caseload level. There's a little different goal. The high end is 100, the low end would be around 80, but we're getting definitely into that manageable range, so we're very pleased with that. Kelly has some notes on there about some other duties that some of these people provide as well, so it's not a perfectly clean picture because we do use them in some other capacities at times as well. So that's the public health picture, and it is more stable than what's happened on the disability side. So same assessment, same kind of door they go through, getting a Min Choices Min Choices assessment, but now we're talking about the under 65, the disability services populations. And we get into a bunch of acronyms that Lynette tried to map out for us here. If you go across that chart, it says the year, obviously 15 and 16 data. DD is the developmental disability. The CCB is an acronym for the acronyms below. So CAT, CADI, and BI equals the CCB. So those are combined, those different waivers. The real important thing for us to look at administratively is the growth over time. So we went from 600 cases in aggregate in 15 to 650 in 2016, which is a significant increase, and we're starting to feel that impact of change, and more to come. And then just skipping down into the narrative, there's a section that says caseload sizes. You'll see our caseload sizes in this area of practice is between 55 and 75. We're towards the upper end of that, usually split between 11 case managers at this time. The next boxes just show, again, a raw data count of how many assessments we do to give the board some sense of that. You'll see a dramatic increase here from 15 to 16, so that was some of the staffing that we asked for and able to serve those assessment functions. And then the reassessments are pretty flat because those are people that we've already known. So we had this influx of new people that adds to our totals, but it really is new assessments that came our way. In the narrative below those two boxes, it talks about this next change that I know the board is somewhat familiar with, but County of Location assessment work will begin in January of 18, so coming up very shortly. Blue Earth County Min-Choices assessors will begin the work of assessing each client who live in our county, and that's really the change, that language right there. So we are not necessarily the county of responsibility regarding the financial responsibility for all these clients. The estimate at this point is there's about 300 new folks that are coming our way, and that reflects some of this request for staffing both last year and this year. This does not include the intermediate care facilities, so that would be the Harry Myrings of our world, and that's another 50 clients added to that. We do export some clients, and that's important in the aggregate, and the estimate there is 118, well, it's probably a pretty hard number, that live outside of our county that we are responsible for. There's a lot more narrative here that I won't read through, but you'll see in those last two bullet paragraphs, the 6 to 8 hours per assessment is indicated there, and just that we still hope that there will be a learning curve. They've added a few components, a new updated community support plan, so kind of the guts of what they come up with as a treatment plan is newer, and then they again had a new support plan computer system, so anytime we do that, as we know, there's a disruption. So we're hoping that we can bring that number down even by, from a 6 to 8 to maybe averaging more of a 5 hours per assessment would make a huge difference on the staff load. So those are the nuances of what we battle for over time. So that's what I had to just provide with data regarding public health and disabilities.
Okay, before we take other questions, I just have a quick one. I never get my questions in. On the, was it 178, when you talked about the caseload?
Yes.
And below that, it's just, I saw it said 2 of the public health nurses, for example, TB investigations in DOT, is that, when I'm hearing that Department of Transportation?
No, so that is actually, that's daily observation, so that they have to go out and watch people take their meds, and so it's a way to ensure quality. I'm sorry, these
I thought maybe they did for CDL or something.
I know how the board feels about all these acronyms, so I try to do a better job of catching those in the narrative. That
I guess it
very
didn't,
different.
Yes. It didn't say MnDOT, but I didn't know.
But if the Department of Transportation wants to help us funding any of that, that would be fine.
And I try to talk about that too when I go to different committees I go to, and they start throwing out these acronyms. You can work, like if you go to environment and natural resources, they have acronyms that match up with human services.
Absolutely.
Ones. And I'm just going, oh my.
Which one are we talking about?
I gotta make sure I put on the right hat when you're there.
Right.
But I did have a couple questions too, Mr. Chair, but are you done?
Yeah.
With asking? Okay. No, I did just noticing that the first part though, where the presentation on the assessments completed, which looks like it's mainly for people over the age of 65.
Right.
That has gone down.
Right.
I mean, that was 981 in 15, then it was 899, and then it's 877 in this year so far.
Right. And you'll see that next slide too, which really relates to those numbers, is that you see our caseload counts are going down to fairly manageable levels. We do get actually cited in our audits from the managed care if we're over kind of that 100. They'll tolerate these numbers that we're at now, but when we were up in the 120s, it would be a citation that we'd receive.
Because they figure it's just too much.
Yeah, it's just over caseload.
And so those are the public health nurses that go out and kind of listen to what's going on there, what their needs are. See if they need to have a home care person come in, see whatever's going on with them.
So that big front end assessment with then a treatment plan that includes all those things like PCA and all those things.
Right. And then you went on to the other services that are provided for the disability end of things too, which is PCA a lot of times too.
Right.
I just have a question because over the last few years, and just in my neighborhood even, we've got an apartment that has 40 apartments, and they're all quite they're facing a lot of challenges.
Okay.
And the theme that I've heard is that the PCAs, and I don't know, I haven't done a study on it, but I wish we would, are not getting compensated very much. Consequently, this person that lives very dependently on somebody helping them live an independent life gets people that there's a turnover all the time. And in fact, there's hard availability even, because a lot of people don't want to do the work because it's not compensated very well.
Right.
Who controls that, Phil? Do we have any say-so in our county over the reimbursement rates that go to these organizations that have PCAs that help people?
I want to make sure I'm technically correct. I know the state controls all the nursing home rates, so you'll see that be, so that'll be a hot topic. And I do think there's a related dynamic to that a lot of times in that sphere of nursing home down, like that's kind of the highest level care, but that's the line of PCA providers.
Okay.
They are private. We don't have any controls. We don't hold contracts with PCA providers. And so what we do is authorize the level of service.
Yeah.
And then they're licensed and able to provide this with staff. What you describe is absolutely accurate. I think it is an entry-level position, low pay. A lot of times you're transporting people, and you picture maybe a smaller person who has the job of getting somebody out of a chair or something. And it's hard work, there's no doubt, and very low pay.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to add to what you say.
Can I ask why?
I just think that it's high volume and not very attractive, and so people churn through it. I think to raise that pay is they're just saying it's one of those jobs that nobody's going to want to stay at because of the nature of the work is difficult.
So in a sense, we're saying these people then get people there's a lot of turnover. Once they get to know all their needs, which are very intricate and detailed,
right?
We talk about things like you don't want to talk about, but bowel programs to try to figure out how to help them with their daily activities.
Yep.
Trying to get them into bathtubs and just get them bathed.
Right.
We're talking about some very professional things.
Yep.
Then in a nursing home, it's a CNA.
Right.
It's a certified nursing assistant.
Right.
PCA has a whole other set of rules. The training is very limited.
Right.
Probably not as professionalized, which it should be, I think.
Yeah.
Because these are very important things for these people to have lives, independent lives.
Right.
I mean, the general public would pay a lot more if they had to be in some sort of an institution or something, I'll tell you that much.
Right.
So, I just don't know what we can do as a board, as a county, as an AMC, as a NACO. What can we do? I mean, what can we do to help incentivize and professionalize the PCA world? Or maybe not have it anymore and just go to CNAs maybe.
Right.
I don't know. So it is licensed through other avenues because there's something going on here. It's in your community. It's our constituents that are being impacted very sometimes adversely. They're lucky when they get a good person that can really help them. They click. They know what they're doing. But then they might get somebody they don't click at all.
That's right.
And they're not getting paid very much, and it's very difficult.
It is.
To have a life. It might take somebody, when they get up in the morning, about 5 hours of PCA work to get them ready for the day. 5 hours.
It's a lot.
I mean, probably, if they're really good at it, they can do it 3.5 or 4 maybe.
Right.
But I'm just saying that I wish there was something that we could do, Phil. And I don't know if we have any kind of say over those things.
I think where the head of the stream would be at the legislature level. I mean, I think you'd have to bring a change to the current practice. I don't see any other leverage that you could have other than trying to incent a person to do higher level care and say, we're going to pay our people more privately, and we think people will pay more. And so that's the risk of the business aspect of it. Otherwise, legislatively, I think you could look at this like they do with nursing homes and say, we're just not able to keep good people in the nursing homes, we got to increase pay, and it's mandated. And that's how that works at that level. So that's why I kind of use that as a corollary.
And I've known several PCAs in Mankato that worked their whole lives, but they
Absolutely.
will not contract with these agencies.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're getting paid by private pay at home,
Yep.
and they're making $18 an hour.
Right.
Why would you want to go to one of these PCA agencies and get paid $10 an hour?
Right. Sure.
So, I mean, it's quite a difference.
Yeah.
So people who can afford it, they're paying $18-20 an hour.
Sure.
So anyway, well, thanks.
Thank you.
Help with that, I don't know.
Thank you, Phil.
Good conversation,
Yep.
though, Drew.
Yep.
I know it personally, so I understand it. But good conversation. Thanks, Drew.
Yep. Thank you much, and thank you, Phil. I think, anybody got any other questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
All right, we will go to administrative services and
The minutes.
I'll give my report real quick.
Let's not skip that.
Yeah, I was waiting for that, actually.
I'm sure you were, no one.
I think we got a half an hour for you.
Yeah. Nothing, everything's been said already. Micah with Kip and Hafner Drive Public Open House and Eagle Lake, and then we had RCF, as Kip said, mayors and clerks and Mankato, the work session, road tour. And then I had, the only thing I'll add is I went to Shrimping on the Hill up at Good Counsel because it was the Center for Learning that the Sister Mary Donald started. They started over 50 years ago, and this is a fundraiser, and it helps children can go there to learn, read better, or math. In fact, my daughter went there one summer, and then they'll have, nowadays they also have immigrants, people coming here to learn English and the basics, a lot of subjects. So yeah, it's a very good thing. So
Sister Mary Donald started that?
Yeah.
Really?
See, and you even knew,
Yeah,
see, she's still there. She's about 91.
Impressive lady.
Yep. She made my son what he is today. I want to say that because he had problems in junior high, like, typical. And she was the principal then, and she does a good job with the kids. So anyway, that concludes my report, though.
Everything okay with RCEF? I mean, that both you and Kip go, I think, but
yeah, yep.
Just curious, curious.
Nope, that was kind of long, Mark.
Right.
Okay, let's go back. What, Bob? We got the county board minutes for October 10th.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries. Bill for the weeks, the 2 weeks.
I'll move the bills.
Been
Second.
moved, bills moved and be paid, and a second. Any discussion, questions?
I've got
No Jeopardy issues today?
I've got a couple. BlackRock College Advantage 529.
That's a deferred comp, so it's a withholding from an employee into a savings account for an employee. So 529 plan is a college savings plan.
Okay. This way, I got, and I probably know what this is, but I just thought I'd bring it up since it's $418,000. Mathewitz.
That is the work being done on County Road 109.
All right, and another one is $817,000. Southern Minnesota Construction.
That is the work on County Road 12 that's currently going on.
I think that's all I got. Drew?
Right, do we have any?
I just got a couple. There's one for 400. I'm trying to think where it was now. I had it. I didn't have my sheet with me, but it's a Donald. What was the last name on there? It's exactly $400. First week, and I can find him there. Let's see, there's a Drew Campbell on there too. I was just wondering about that. But let's see. Donald somebody for $400.
Donald somebody? Is that with an S?
It's Donald Hanson. Starts with an H. Sorry. I thought it was under the D, so I couldn't find it back. I was just curious what it was. Contracted services for $400. Not 400,000.
That was a driver for our Veterans Services van.
Oh,
Okay. Great.
Very good, very good.
Okay, anything else?
I have one if you got a
Oh,
minute.
Will has one.
Streamworks postage for $11,000.
Oh.
That is prepaid postage for our truth and taxation, our budget hearing.
That's DreamWorks, okay.
Amazing.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll conclude. All those in favor of the paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Okay, now we have the informational on human resources.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 3 in your packet is the Human Resources agenda. We do just have informational items. We have employed a mental health professional in the Human Services Department, and then we received a resignation of a patrol officer, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that patrol officer.
Well,
Do you have a question, Mr.
Just
Commissioner?
wondering if
Carroll?
we should know anything about that at all, or is there any discussion?
With
Been here a
Thomas
long time.
Coulter. He pursued a different position, I believe, up in Forest Lake.
Really?
Wow.
Same,
Tom has done great things for
Really
Broward
has.
County and the TDS and
Yep.
you know, the safety aspects throughout the county. He actually was the voice of the sheriff's department for a long time.
TZD.
TZD.
so he
Yeah.
wanted to get
And-
closer to the big
and,
city, I guess,
So
huh?
you know.
He's from that area.
Oh, is he from there?
It was
Oh,
interesting. I walked into the law enforcement center or the justice center here the other day, and they said, "Oh, you're late," because they had a going away, and I didn't know anything about it, which would have been nice. Would have been nice to know. That I think the board would have enjoyed.
I would have gone there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
if
wasn't
we'd
aware
known,
of
we
it.
would have won.
And,
Yeah.
He must have not
you might
wanted
wanna-
that.
You might want to indicate that to the sheriff that it would
It'd
have
be
been
nice if we knew about those things.
if we
'cause I-
knew about
If they
those
want you to
things.
come.
Yeah, they might not want
I'm
to have.
sorry, but some people just don't
Yeah.
like a big party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's just-
know,
It's
I
what
know.
they want, so
And
I think we
that's-
should
that's
respect
true,
that.
too.
Yeah, I didn't know about it. I was working really closely with him the last 6 years on TZD stuff, up
Yeah.
until about a year ago or less. And he's the one that was helped oversee the grant dollars that would come into our county, you know, from MnDOT. And he would go out and help do presentations, and he's presented to you know, mayors and clerks. He's presented to township officers meetings. He's done a lot of different things.
Well,
over the years.
in any case, he'll be missed, and I hope the most for his future. I hope he gets the position he's looking for, and good
Looks
for
like
him.
he's on until the 29th of October. Maybe we can find him. Tom Coulter. We'll track him down.
I'm sure you could.
Probably got vacation to use up.
I know. That's what you do.
He probably is gone.
And is Amanda hired? How do you say it? I mean,
Heard.
Heard, I believe.
Heard. And was she working with us before or not? Or is she anywhere?
No, we just hired her.
Just hired her onto the county now.
Yes.
And is that the actual name of the title? That's the actual title.
Yes.
It is. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, Bob. Then we can go to the setting the public hearing date for.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
48.
We have received a petition back in August of 2016 on County Ditch 48, and so we're at a point now where we'd like to set the final public hearing on that ditch, and so it's recommended that we hold a public hearing on December 12th at 9:15 here in the county boardroom.
December 12th at 9:15. Everybody
moved.
got that?
Second.
So moved, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye, setting the date. Aye. Opposed, carries. Then I guess we are back to the Poor Farm bid results.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, we did advertise bids for the county for Poor Farm. This is a little over 190 acres of tillable land that the county owns, and we previously leased that land out for crop production. We had indicated in the bid specs, excuse me, that we wanted a minimum bid of $250 an acre. We only received one bid, and that came in at $205. So we're asking the board to reject that bid, and we will move ahead with advertising the Poor Farm again at a minimum bid of $185, hoping to elicit some responses at that level or above.
Why would we re-advertise with a minimum bid of $185 when we already have a $205 bid?
Well, the hope is to draw more interest, so it's a more competitive bidding process, recognizing that land rental rates have gone down. Since it was a public bid opening, that bidder would know that they were the only bidder at that $205, and there's no guarantee that they would resubmit that bid at that level.
Made sense.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion?
Well,
Questions,
yeah,
Mr. Drew?
I know, I see where Van's
Yeah.
going
No,
with this. I mean,
yeah,
if we
I
got a bid
understand
already
that.
at 205, why wouldn't we just take that? I mean, I don't know, I'm just wondering.
I guess I'll go with, that's your district, Mark?
No.
or
Wow.
whose district?
Will, I think.
I think it's beyond 90, isn't it?
Yeah, the Quarry and Rapidan. So
Yeah.
I think we have to reject
both
the
theirs.
bid because it didn't meet the minimum bid requirement.
Yeah, it's not bid.
Yeah, it's not a valid bid,
I
because,
got you.
yeah, has to meet the
Oh.
minimum.
They shouldn't have even
okay.
submitted it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes more sense to
So
rebid
they
it.
can resubmit the same bid again now,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
so it's a matter of law, it's not a matter of.
And we don't want to hit this, we want to hit this the next time, so that's why the 185.
I got you.
Right.
All right,
Thanks.
I understand now. It's just that,
didn't see it.
We're glad you guys know. Understand it.
Yeah, okay.
Any further discussion on this then?
hey, you know, you have to have these discussions.
Okay, I think.
So we're gonna
we should do
reject
it.
the bids?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we haven't voted on it yet.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the resolutions as it was stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. And, that's.
I'll move to recess
Yeah.
to Baker Square.
Is that what
That's it. Yeah, Baker
Oh, I
Square.
had a coupon at home, I should have brought it.
Yeah, time. Did you get it?
Run home and get it.
Get it?
Okay, we're recessed till